The Super Mario Galaxy movie was a fun Mario experience, and it referenced tons of Mario games, of course, even Galaxy itself, but I feel like that's the extent that the movie went. It referenced Super Mario Galaxy. I don't think the Super Mario Galaxy movie was a Super Mario Galaxy movie at all. In fact, I think there was hardly any Galaxy in this movie, whether it be the storyline or really any locations or even enemies and bosses. And let me explain myself, because you might think I'm crazy, but hear me out. Now here's what I'll say. They did two excellent jobs pulling from the Galaxy games, at least Galaxy 1. The very beginning of the game where the UFO lifts up the castle was replicated perfectly in the movie. I thought it was done extremely well. And they also replicated the scene of them heading to the center of the galaxy in order to fight Bowser. I also thought that was pretty much exactly the same as the games, even from the music. I mean, they even had them flying through space after hitting launch stars. But what if I told you this was the bulk of the Galaxy content? Sure, you had one boss like Mega Leg and some small Easter eggs and references here and there, but this movie really didn't pull from Galaxy as much as I thought they would have. There was only technically 2 galaxies that they visited in this game. I'm talking about 2 full video games filled to the brim with galaxies. In fact, there are over 91 total galaxies across Galaxy 1 and 2, and they only showed us 2 of the 91. The Gateway Galaxy was changed to this giant spaceport, so it's hardly recognizable, and the Honey Hive Galaxy was only shown for genuinely like 2 minutes. In fact, they hardly ever even showed the kingdom itself and the outside of the galaxy and the world itself. They showed us some generic flower fields and a throne room, which wasn't even in the original game either. In fact, the Honey Queen was in this movie so quickly and it was over, you probably could have blinked and it was done. I mean, she literally had maybe 30 to 45 seconds of screen time. They try to make it seem like they showed other galaxies, but it was like a absolute joke. Like, for instance, this is supposed to be Drip Drop Galaxy. They go through it in a second and it's over. I mean, genuinely a second. It doesn't even have eels or anything in it, or the penguins. It's just some bloopers. It's just a generic water planet. And the final battle where Bowser's planet is was supposed to be Space Junk Galaxy. The only way I knew that is because Peach just kept saying it the whole movie. We have to get to Space Junk. We have to get to Space Junk. And it never is really shown. I mean, I don't know what the heck they thought Space Junk was. I mean, I guess it is just a bunch of junk in space with the actual level, but nothing was recognizable. Nothing when they were actually going to the area to fight Bowser Jr. It was literally just some asteroids. That was it. It looked like a level from Star Fox, if anything. So yeah, location-wise, they really didn't give us anything. In fact, there was just as much Super Mario Odyssey locations as there were Galaxy. I mean, Super Mario Odyssey got both Toast Arena and the Fossil Falls of Cascade Kingdom, and they were both shown way more than any other Galaxy in this movie. Now, if you peeked and squinted your eyes and paused the frames, you could see a couple of small planets from like Good Egg Galaxy in the background as Easter eggs, but that's really as far as they went with that Galaxies itself. And I'm not even talking about the enemies yet. There really isn't any enemies or too many characters pulled from Galaxy. There's a scene where they all walk into this random bar and it's filled with enemies. And let me tell you, you see all these enemies. There's even a couple of Galaxy enemies like Octo Guys and Octoombas. In fact, the only other Galaxy-themed enemy I think we got was the Goon Beetle, but they were just shown off as just like scenes of characters that were in the background. Peach and Toad does not fight any of these guys. Not even when she gets to the casino that's filled with enemies, she literally only fights Super Mario Bros. 2 bosses and a bunch of Ninjas, another enemy that comes from Super Mario Bros. 2. So yes, she fights more Super Mario Bros. 2 enemies and bosses than anyone in this movie fights Galaxy enemies and bosses. Outside of Mega Leg, I genuinely think that's it. I don't think anybody even fought any regular enemies. It was just that Mario Bros. 2 section in the casino with Peach and Toad. I mean, the closest you're gonna get is a couple of boss references with some plushies in Bowser Jr.'s flashback bedroom where you have King Caliente and Gobblegut, but they're just plushies. Now, there's not a ton of Galaxy NPCs and characters in the games, but they just kind of throw them in as nothing but little references that walk around the background, along with Piantas and Conktors from Sunshine and 3D World respectively, but you'll see the occasional Star Bunny, the Whittles from Galaxy 2, and some penguins that just don't quite look like the same ones from Galaxy, like you don't see the Elder Penguins or anything like that, so it doesn't really feel like they're truly referencing anybody there. And plus, Gateway Galaxy's full of more cameos, if anything. You can see Samus' ship in one scene, you can even see Pikmin entering their spaceship, and of course Star Fox is there, so it feels like it's everybody else's movie but Galaxy. In fact, there's a whole scene dedicated to Fox, his flashback of who he is, where he comes from, showing off his whole crew, and even showing him fighting a giant mothership UFO, which feels like it's just a scene pulled straight out of the game of Star Fox, and it's literally longer than any Galaxy-specific scene I feel like we get in this entire movie, which is great for Star Fox, but not great for the fact that this is a Galaxy movie. And it's not even just Galaxy-themed enemies that's the problem here. We can see Bowser and Bowser Jr.'s entire amusement park that's just filled with crowds and hordes of enemies, and none of them are there to fight Mario and the gang. Literally, Mario and everybody just sneaks past every single one of them and goes straight to Bowser and Bowser Jr., which makes them feel extremely pointless. In fact, I think the only enemies outside of the Peach and Toad section in the casino that anyone fights is Mario and Luigi fighting a pair of Hammer Bros in the very beginning of the movie for like 5 seconds. Which reminds me, during this section we get an area that looks very similar to Supermassive Galaxy, but we know technically it's not because this is all taking place on the Mushroom Kingdom. They kind of turned Supermassive Galaxy into some random location in the Mushroom Kingdom now. Now yes, it's pretty bad to call this a Mario Galaxy movie, not have many locations at all, not really any enemies or bosses from the franchise outside of one, which is the first major boss of the first game. But what really sucks is there's no heart of Super Mario Galaxy either. Some of the most iconic scenes from the games is just completely gone. Mario doesn't meet Bowser for one final giant intergalactic battle in the center of the universe like he does in the game. There's not that really sad emotional ending with Mario and the Luma and the galaxy resetting. In fact, Mario doesn't even have his Luma companion in this movie. They completely wrote the character out. Roselina herself is seen more of an afterthought. She takes the screen away at the very beginning and then is just completely locked up for the rest of the movie in kind of a background character. They only use her to tell a new story about how she's related to Princess Peach, which was never a thing in the games in the first place. They completely write out her entire history and where she comes from in her story in the storybook. Some of the most iconic scenes from Galaxy is just stripped here, which is strange because the Mario games already do not have much story, but goodness gracious, I felt like the Galaxy games had more story than the freaking movie. So the question is, how would I have changed this movie? Is Star Fox needed? No, but he's fine. I don't think he really adds or takes away anything that's going to mess up the Galaxy story. In fact, I feel like it fit pretty well. But when Mario and friends travel from galaxy to galaxy, it shouldn't have felt like, oh, this is an Odyssey Kingdom or this is a reference to another Mario game that's not Galaxy. It needs to feel like Galaxy. There should have been at least a couple of scenes where they're traveling from multiple different galaxies that we've seen in the games, meeting up with characters and fighting enemies from those respective galaxies and even bosses. There should have even been multiple montages of them just going through galaxies from the games. And Bowser Jr. not using any of the bosses from the first 2 games outside of just Mega Leg over and over again felt strange. Where was Dino Piranha? I mean, that one felt perfect. Like, seeing Bowser turn into Dry Bowser in that final fight was cool and all, but what did any of it have to do with Galaxy? It was a pretty cool reference to the very first Mario Brothers game with the drawbridge dropping and everything, but what the heck did any of it have to do with Galaxy? What did Bowser turning into Dry Bowser have to do with Galaxy? Was it cool? Sure, but it's just not Galaxy. In fact, all the items that they use, only 2 of them are Galaxy themed before Mario uses the red star at the very end, but wouldn't it have been cool if they used a bunch of random items instead of just one at the very end? Like, after Mario's drill went away, he pulled out something else, like a boulder bowl mushroom or something. But yeah, Mario has the drill power-up from Mario Wonder, which isn't even technically Galaxy themed. I guess it's kind of theming after Galaxy 2's drill, but still not technically with the item power-up. Luigi with the Cloud Flower and Yoshi with the Blimp Fruit, but for one, Yoshi really didn't do anything besides just float around and was just a gag, if anything. And the whole final boss segment once again was cool, but it felt like a just big Easter egg fest. Having Mr. Game & Watch actually in Bowser is hilarious, but what the heck does that have to do with Galaxy? And once again, Bowser Jr. paints a giant Lord of Lightning dragon from Super Mario Odyssey, which once again, I'm not going to deny that it's not cool, but at the same time, it's not Galaxy. He could have painted any Galaxy enemy. This could have been Gobblegut the dragon, for crying out loud. In fact, this could have been Petey Piranha or even Dino Piranha I would have taken. But Lord of Lightning seemed a little strange to be the final big enemy in a Galaxy movie. My point is, this movie felt like a big combination of everything, which is something that we have seen before even with the first movie. But when you name this movie Super Mario Galaxy movie compared to the first one just being the Mario Brothers movie, you've got to give Mario Galaxy fans more of a bone than this, because this whole movie just felt like a missed opportunity for a really solid, well-sounded Galaxy story. And it kind of makes me fear for the future, because if we do get an Odyssey movie, or maybe a movie based on Mario Bros. 3 with the Koopalings, or Super Mario World even, I feel like it's just not going to feel like those games whatsoever. It's just going to be a big combination of all things Mario with a couple of references so they can call it an Odyssey movie. The Odyssey will be there with Cappy, and there will probably be a big wedding once again like they did with the first movie, but still, it's probably going to have little enemies, little NPCs, and little references to actual kingdoms in the game. Instead, they're just going to call a bunch of random worlds from other Mario games kingdoms, because it seems like that's what they're doing with these movies, which just kind of sucks, because I still really would have loved to see an actual Super Mario Galaxy movie with tons of galaxies and stuff like that, but what are you gonna do? But honestly, by far the most Galaxy part of this movie was the soundtrack. I recognized so many iconic Galaxy themes. It was really great and really special, and that's what really made this feel more like Galaxy to me than anything. So besides that though, I don't know. Everything else was just kind of hit or miss for me. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought though. Did you feel like this movie was definitely pointed towards the Galaxy direction, or do you think it was lacking in the Galaxy department? Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe before you head out, and I hope you all have a blessed rest of your weekend. See you guys.